Good day. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Core Conversations Inside the Arc of Freedom. I'm your host, Fitz Johnson. And for those of you who may have been following me any length of time, you know about, and I've been talking about the vision of the Ark. And basically the mission of the Ark is about helping God's people to stay on God's path towards God's purpose. And to do that, we have to be aligned, renewed, and centered right here in God's truth. And that's what we're about. We're on a mission to help believers, particularly, but also anybody that's open to truth, to apply God's truth for fulfillment in what I call the core 5 areas of our life. Now, the core 5 surrounds your mindset, your health, your relationships, your finances, and your vocation. And I have a treat for you today. We're talking today on the health core. And I want to introduce my guest today, Mia. Hope I say your last name right, Arancillo.
Everybody asks me that. It's I'll say it Americanized, Fitz. Arancillo. So
Arancillo. Okay.
Easy for everybody to pronounce that way.
Absolutely. So my guest today is Mia Arancillo. And let me tell you just a little bit about my friend Mia here. She's a speaker. She is a holistic health and mindset coach. She specializes in diet and nutrition, gut health, and detox. And we're going to be talking a little bit about all of that stuff. She's been a nurse for over 21 years, has her master's in nursing administration, as well as her master's in business administration. She comes from a background in clinical education, training, consulting, and quality improvement. Welcome to our program, Mia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so excited to be on. It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us in the Arc. Today, we're talking about our health core, and we're just going to dive right into it. Mia, I know you're a believer. Talk a little bit about how long you've been a believer, and then we'll dive into some more questions that we have for you.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, I grew up in my family. I grew up Catholic. So whether I was a believer back then or not, my family made me the believer. But,
Right.
you know, over time here, you know, I've always loved God. But I will say there was a monumental moment, Fitz, at our John Maxwell certification there that really, I won't go into the long story, but my spirit was more really aligned with God then. And I really was, at that point on is when I really just began to seek him in a relationship in such a different way. And it's amazing how God works in and through us. And so, yeah, so it's been all my life, but we continuously grow with God.
Right. That is awesome. That is awesome. So what I want to do, I want to kind of frame this conversation around 2 scriptures, Psalm 139:14 and John 8:32. The Psalm scripture talks about how we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And that's what I'm titling this conversation, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, which basically means that we were created in the image of God, created by God with a level of honor, respect. And as such, we should honor our bodies in the best way that we know how. Now, what kind of bodies are we presenting to him? Are we presenting to God healthy bodies and strong bodies, or weak and sickly bodies? And only God's truth in these areas is going to make us free. So let's dive right into, Mia, what you're about. Let's talk a little bit about your philosophy and how and why did you get involved in the medical field, and talk a little bit about your start in nursing and how you progressed and moved into this holistic health area.
Sure. So I am a Filipino background. So again, one of those things you're kind of indoctrinated into, you're going to be a nurse when you grow up. So, you know, health has always been a passion for me. So went into nursing school and then pursued my continuing degrees there. And then, you know, you kind of find your path along this way, Fitz. So, you know, you get the experience. And then you learn some things in school, but then you also realize, hey, you've got to make it your own because, you know, sometimes in the medical profession, we're taught, you know, what to think versus how to think. And so that's where really the progression is here now, because, you know, as a nurse too, you're trained to say, hey, this is the order that you're getting from the doctor. But if it doesn't make sense to you and you're in tune with your patient per se, you've got to be able to advocate for your patient and speak for your patient. And if we are talking about this from the perspective of that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, we're each unique beings. So God created us and we all have, oh my gosh, so many individual cells. I mean, if we really stop to fathom how amazing our bodies really are, He's the one who gave us that capability though, too, with our mindset. Because if He wanted us all to be robots, he would have done that. We could have just easily sat and worshiped Him and all those other things, but He gave us really dominion over our own minds here. And so it is our responsibility to really honor our own body temples, is because we've got to do our part. It's not that we can just merely sit and, hey, okay, I'm going to pray about it. I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm going to rely on the medical system to do everything for me. Or, we've got to do our parts. That's why He gave us that dominion over our own minds. But so let me finish answering your question in that respect, because I think I'm just diving deep in right here with you already. So from that perspective, this was really a passion of mine, and just kind of learning that, I got into health coaching, and then I joined the John Maxwell team. And then I realized there too, I just really have a passion. I've always had a passion for serving because of my nursing background, but I've been in different areas of nursing. So not just necessarily one-on-one clinical nursing with individuals, but also on the medical device side, the clinical education side, the clinical trial side, basically lots of areas within healthcare. So I've seen the full spectrum here. And where I'm at right now, this is a business, but it's a calling. It's a mission. And that's where there's a differentiation from, you can have a career, you can have a business, but if you don't have that calling, that anointing, that purpose, I'm speaking really boldly about this because I know it's from up above. So yes, I'm a nurse by background, and I have, the areas of expertise in gut health right now, detoxing and nutrition, but it came to me through really God. And so the health and the mindset component, I think that's really valuable here, especially where we are right now in the world, is that we've got to be able to be aware, to really understand our bodies, and then to take that intentional action. But then, then we have to examine what really are we believing here. And so when you have a firm foundation in your belief in God here, it's not a matter of, okay, well, my doctor told me to go do this. There's a lot of confusing information out there, but I have to know myself. I have to know my body, but then I'm not fully in charge of my body yet still too. So that's where this is kind of like a meeting of the sciences and faith all together. So really, coming into this, it's a calling. I really honestly do see it above all there. And that's something that I pray for daily. I said, who am I supposed to serve? Who am I supposed to help today? And you take over the rest.
Yeah. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, the medical field, it's a ministry. It's not just a job, it's a ministry. And anybody that understands that word, ministry means to serve. A minister is one who serves. So, being a person of faith and being in this profession for so long, how would you talk a little bit about how God has shaped your faith as a medical professional and a holistic health and mindset coach over the last couple of years? How would you say God has really taken you, this profession, and how has He kind of shaped you and molded your faith?
Sure. So I'll actually share a little personal story here. Before I went back into nursing right now, I do nursing just part-time, and then I have my coaching and speaking practice as well. But my dad had a stroke in June 2012. And at that time, I was working as a clinical educator for a medical device company. So I was doing a lot of traveling, and, I was really into my profession. I was really into my career. I also had started a healthcare consulting company, at that time frame. And, again, it was one of those things where it's like, you think to yourself, oh, let me be successful. But then that's where it turns into later on. Well, I'm not just looking for like, success. I'm looking
Yeah.
for significance. And there was
Yeah.
always a little bit of something that felt like it was missing in me. So when my dad had that stroke in June 2012, it really shifted a lot because
Mhm.
then now the focus was really on him and also his
Mhm.
health. But in
Mhm.
that journey, Fitz, God has really shown me that in order for me to be able to help take care of my dad, and then I'm taking care of my patients, I've got my mom, taking care of so many other people. What about myself? You can't give what you don't have. So you have to be
Yeah.
able to fill up your cup. And
Right.
in this profession here is very demanding. Currently right now, I'm stationed where I have like I work with a lot of dementia patients. So when I have 30 dementia patients, asking me for their attention, needing my attention, if
Yeah.
I'm not taking care of myself here in this way, then I can't serve them here. So really, it's been a big thing that we look at the medical side to help treat others, but then going into the holistic side is really about looking at natural solutions, things that God has already created into this world. I mean, we're fully capable. Like, our immune system was meant to function. Our heart was meant to function the way God intended it to. I
Right.
mean, if you just
Right.
sat and looked at, my gosh, how our blood flows within our veins, within our bodies, you can't even
Mhm.
fathom that we just wake up every day. We take that for granted and we're able to breathe
Yeah.
just naturally. So
Right.
looking at it really here from the science perspective, it's
Mhm.
amazing because he created all those medical technologies, all these cures, these solutions,
Mhm.
but he gifted people with that intellect to be able
Right.
to
Right.
provide that for others. So now it's really like a meeting of knowing, like there's science, but you have to understand true research, true science, but then also understanding, there's natural solutions and how he made this earth.
Right.
There's
Right.
water, there's like vegetables, plants, all of that survives on God's, goodness. So it's
Right.
just like watering the seed and then letting him grow that. So it's the same concept here that we've really just have to do our part still, but at the end of the day, and
Mhm.
I've gone through my own journey with this as well. And I'm like, oh, great, I've learned this new technology. I know that, okay, I'm going to detox every single day. I'm mindful about the foods that I'm eating because our food is not the same right now with the pesticides,
Mhm.
herbicides, everything that's, the deadly chemicals and the toxins that are in there,
Mhm.
and being aware of that. I'm doing my part, but yet what am I thinking in my mind? Is my thinking aligned with God's thinking? Because if I'm trying to do everything for myself, like, so if you get all this knowledge, but then you don't acknowledge that, it comes from really up above here, you've got to be in alignment with that. So it's really that mind body connection
Mhm.
as well. And so
Right.
you've got to be able to like lean on him that we don't know everything. We're not supposed
Yeah.
to know everything, but we're
Right.
supposed to use our thinking to help, take care of ourselves, do our part, then let him take over on the rest.
Right. Yeah. So, and let's talk a little bit about truth. I mentioned John 8:32 when we open, and the scripture talks about knowing the truth and that the truth was going to make you free. That's what
Yes.
Christ said. So what would you say, what role does, if any, does truth play? You've been in this profession several years now, a couple of decades, and what role would you say, if any, does truth play in the medical profession as you see it?
Well, really, again, I think it goes back to what's our truth? What's our truth within? What's the truth that God says how we're created here above all? Because again, we can't, sometimes I think what happens in the medical field too is that we place, physicians, doctors, nurses, oh my gosh, they're the heroes, especially within this pandemic. They're the ones who cured us, they're the ones who helped us, but they're just the vehicle. They're above all. So you've got to learn and know, like, really the truth is what is your spirit telling you?
Mm,
Like, how do I
mm,
best take care of myself?
yeah.
There's so many practices. I hate to say this, Fitz, but it's the reality. There's a lot of marketing scams out there. There's a lot of things out there designed that right now it's not for our good. And I'm going
Yeah.
to sound a little bit controversial on here. So I'm just going to say this in advance. I'm speaking really here from my experience, and I'm speaking from what I'm seeing in the deception in this world here.
Mhm.
You know, no human being, no doctor can heal or cure a person. There's only
Right.
one person that does that, and that's from above.
Right.
There,
Right.
there are more natural remedies of the things that we can do.
Yeah.
So it is our personal responsibility
Mm-hmm.
to do our part. But
Mm-hmm.
also then, God uses all those other individuals that are gifted with some of that intellect. And I'll tell you, Fitz, I didn't fall into these areas by, simply accident. If you
Yeah.
would have asked me, a couple of years ago, oh, were you going to specialize in toxins? Getting to the root cause of really disease, stress, and toxins. It doesn't sound glamorous at all. Who wants to talk about that?
Right.
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 But this is something that God had unveiled to me after my dad had passed away, that, you know, my eyes opened up when I met with a fellow colleague that introduced me into this world of seeing, wow, I can't even believe that that's really what's happening at the root cause of why, we're having issues within the world. Anything that's man-made, was supposed to be created for good, but when it's turned into profits only, when it's
Right.
turned into something that is only for the good of themselves, for
Right.
control, for manipulation, for fear,
Right.
and that's where something I won't stand for. And so when
Right.
I talk about knowing your truth,
Mm-hmm.
that's first really, really important. And you got to know
Right.
where your source is and where your source of true health comes from. And then pray for where the direction is going to be for those true, individuals that are aligned with his word and that
Right.
are going to truly, with their heart, want to help you in that way. It has
Right.
nothing to do about ego, has nothing to do with profits. It's purely for the sake of helping another person.
Right. Right. So, you know, I'm at that age, a lot of us, we get to that age where, they encourage you to get certain things checked out. You get certain age, you got to go check this out, check that out, call your doctor and make appointments. So one day I made this appointment to go to the doctor and I had to change it. Something came up and I had to change the appointment. So I called the doctor and I'm thinking, hey, I need to change this, push this appointment back to like next week or something. No, I couldn't get an appointment next week. I had to get one a month and a half later.
Yeah.
And then it hit me right then and there. Why are we so sick? Why are people so sick? I go to the doctor's office and the waiting room is packed. I'm like,
Yeah.
God, and I actually said this on my last doctor's appointment about 2 weeks ago. God, why are we so sick? So I want you to talk a little bit. You mentioned it a couple of times, detox and gut health. And I want you to talk a little bit about your unique approach, the root cause versus the conventional medicine and how you focus on detox. Talk a little about your approach and your philosophy when it comes to health.
Sure. So again, I focus on environmental stress and toxins as the root cause. Now let me kind of dwindle that down a little bit, what I mean by root cause, because I've actually had some clients before like, oh, root cause, you mean my doctor diagnosed me when I had a lab test. How do I understand what the root cause is?
Mm-hmm.
So this is an easy way to see it. I always ask this, do you want to get to the root cause of the things that are happening to you and asking why,
Mm-hmm.
or do you want the Band-Aid solution?
Right.
So the Band-Aid solution
Right.
is how we function in the medical society right now.
Okay.
Some people might not like that I'm saying that, but it's always like, oh, let me treat it instead of prevent it. Let me try to, let me put it in somebody else's hands instead of me taking the responsibility for myself
Right.
and doing it. So the Band-Aid solution is, okay, well, I wasn't feeling well. I need an antibiotic right away, or I need the medication right away. So those are Band-Aid solutions of what I say, of getting just the treatment. Getting to the root cause is really understanding what is causing like the disease state.
Right.
And it's the root cause is really simple. It's stress and toxins and inflammation. So when you get a hold of that, like I have before, and when you really, really get a hold of it, it simplifies things, but it's not dummying it down either. It is stress and toxins. If we look at the world today here, there's been lots of commercials for, the weed killer Roundup, right? And so people don't understand Roundup, the weed, that it's not the Roundup itself. There's a deadly toxin known as glyphosate. It sounds like a swear word. I call it the swear word.
Right.
It's the bad word. It's the curse word.
Right.
And glyphosate is a mineral. It depletes your minerals. It is a biocide. It's a pesticide. It's a herbicide. It's the deadliest toxin that we have out there. It's in our food. It's in our air. It's in our water.
Wow.
And so without being in tune, but without being aware of that kind of thing, we're going to go on our way, because this is how it's progressed within our world. There's been over 85,000, toxins introduced, man-made toxins introduced into our society within the past couple decades. So when you understand, there's 4 major areas of toxins. There's the chemical toxins I just told you about, the most deadliest one, the chemical one, glyphosate. There's others on there. There's heavy metals. And when I talk about heavy metals, I'm talking about mercury, lead, aluminum, just cadmium, just to name a few. Also mold. People say mold. I'll explain why in a second. And EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. So the thing that we're talking on, technology, the radiation here, the amount of 5G that we're taking in every single day. And some people may say also, mold, what are you talking about, mold? Well, mold is something that's been around in our day, but because of everything that's been introduced, again, all the man-made things that have kind of disrupted the earth and the way that it was meant to normally function, all the 5G, all the radiation, it wakes up the mold. So it's like the little toxins adding up, whether it's in your body, whether it's in your soul, whether it's in our minds too. So how we talk about let's go back to talking about truth and lies and deception here. So, when somebody says, oh, well, I didn't totally lie. I told a half truth. I lied just a little bit. But it's still a lie. A lie is still a lie. And just a little bit is deadly. Right? It's not the truth. It's a little bit. And guess what? That's the same way it works, Fitz, with the stress and toxins. Oh, no big deal. Just a little bit. Oh, I just had just a little bit of exposure. But when you're in a toxic environment, whether it's physically around you or mentally of the toxic things that we're thinking, and I'm talking about from a spiritual perspective, when there's unforgiveness, when there's offense, when there's anger, when worry, shame, doubt, all those things that we carry that God never meant for us to carry within, that's a toxin too. So I'm not just talking the actual scientific toxin here. We carry toxins in our mind and in our soul. That I see is actually more deadly than all of that, because the other part of that we talked about, was the stress. So when somebody says to me, oh, I'm not that stressed, I'm like, really? Wow, what are you doing? No, we all have a little bit of stress. Some stress, is good for us to the degree to get us to move, but too much accumulated. And that's where it's really deadly now, because this is a chronic accumulation that we are getting rid of every day. Now we can't avoid it. We're living, we're breathing, we're going to take in, the air, we're going to drink water, we're going to eat the food. Right. So how much of the poison are you like ingesting into your soul, into your body, into your mind every day?
Yeah.
So we can't help it, right? But it is our responsibility to try to get rid of it. We
Right.
don't need to keep it there. We don't need to keep the toxins in there. And so when I talk about then, that's the root cause of understanding it, and the inflammation, the chronic inflammation that's constantly happening every single day here. That's why at my core, detoxing is my first, my middle, my last solution every day. And when I talk about detoxing, and some people might say, oh yeah, I detox. I have a green tea. I, take a colonic. I do something to help me go to the bathroom and cleanse my liver a little bit more. Now, this is where I truly believe that this is the truth part. So if we're made up of all these cells that God created within us, right? And they regenerate every single day. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yeah.
We have some cells that maybe if we get too much stress, inflammation happening, they mutate. They turn into something else that God didn't want us to have. Cancer,
right.
That was not of God.
No.
It came about from our food that's out there, the environment that's out there. Our cells mutating and changing because of what we brought into our bodies, into our minds. So really here, when you look at it, cellular, I talk about cellular detoxification. It sounds like such a big word, super easy though. It's being able to get rid of these toxins outside of our cells. So they simply say that they don't change into what they weren't supposed to be, because we regenerate new cells. So we've got to be able to get rid of those toxic cells within our body. And there's only one way to be able to do that. I utilize a solution. It's called Clear Drops, and Clear Drops is the only patented FDA approved substance, zeolite solution that's able to take out the toxins from our body, not at just the gut level. Because again, when I talk about some marketing deception, things of that nature there, they will only sit at the gut level. So it's good marketing. Oh, everybody is so excited. They bring them false hope there, but it doesn't work at that. I mean, and I'm not bashing, I'm not criticizing everybody. They are trying to also do their best, but you've got to get to really where the root is, and where the truth is. And it's getting to these cells and making these cells healthy. So it's the only one that I recommend to everyone that I work with, everyone that's living, breathing, eating. That's it, to get rid of these toxins, and this is, I'm going to just point this picture with everybody. And I hope that everybody can kind of get a hold of this, and I will plainly say, I'll put it out there for the record. I've had some clients before that say, well, so you're telling me about a product. Is this something you get paid on? And it's not about that. It's not about, pushing somebody to go use something. I don't utilize anything for the sake of profit. It's to help an individual. Right. So, all right, let me back up here a little bit. I'll show it to you if you guys would like. So, what happens is when we accumulate these toxicities within our body, we never get rid of them. It's slow little toxins every single day. When they don't get released, it turns into clinical toxicity. What do I mean by clinical toxicity? A manifestation of a disease that is difficult to cure. I'll give you an example that's very near and dear to my heart. ALS right now, or also cancers. These, having a stroke, having a chronic disease here already, Alzheimer's, dementia. When I mention some of these disease states, this is something that I have personal experience with both my patients, my family, and everything else. They've accumulated already so many toxins, whether it's a neuroinflammation of the brain, whether it's something that manifested from an autoimmunity from, our gut here. Once it becomes a clinical toxicity, it's very difficult to reverse, because here's a deadly part of it, Fitz. When our cells start to change and mutate, and if you start changing somebody's DNA, super, super toxic, super deadly.
Yeah.
That is interfering with God's plan for our bodies.
Right.
And that is what something I will not stand for, the
Right.
deception that's happening within the world here.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to do our part. And it's not just, oh, okay, I'm going to go to my doctor. Oh, okay. What's that solution that Mia was talking about? Clear drops. Oh, okay. I'll give it a try. No, you don't do it once. You do it every single day.
Right.
For many of your listeners, many of your followers, I'm sure they're business owners, entrepreneurs, high achievers, right? People of faith, believers here. So I'm going to ask this question. How often do you have to work on your career, on your business? How often do you have to pray?
Yeah.
What's our answer? I think we all know. Daily.
Yeah.
And we never stop doing it.
Right.
Because we know that is what we need to maintain, to take care of our body temple with the God that lives in us. Do we want a body temple that is full of toxins?
Right.
It's up to us. He's still going to live in it, but how can he flow through us when we don't do our part?
Right.
To just do that one simple thing. So it starts at the foundation of detoxing and then getting to like gut health, understanding and being aware there are certain foods that are just not good for our bodies that we need to take. But what one person's, heaven might be somebody else's poison for say.
Yeah.
So that's where I do some testing within my practice to look at, hey, is this food helping you? Is it serving you or is it harming you?
Right.
And that's really the question that we need to ask ourselves every single day. Are the actions that I'm taking right now, is this helpful to me or is this harmful to me?
Right.
Does this align with how God wanted me to like live? We're created, fearfully and wonderfully made. He wants us to live our best, healthiest lives.
Absolutely.
And to become everything he created us to be and live into our potential. How do we do that if we are sickly?
Absolutely.
We cannot.
Yeah.
Because you can build wealth. You can be successful. You can travel, you can do all that. But when you don't have your health, that's the one thing that we just neglect sometimes.
That's true.
And guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what? God still will come in there. It's his will.
Yeah.
And he'll help us. He'll cure us. But then what do we do with it? Then we neglect him. So every single day, we've got to be diligent. We have to be desperate for God. We have to be desperate to take care of ourselves.
No, you're right.
I've been in those situations, Fitz. I'm going to just share with the audience here that it's like, I think God really does it to us. And I've experienced it myself where my head doesn't get puffed up where I'm like, oh, sure, just do this, do this. I'm spitting off things to people and to myself let me just do my routine. And one time it's like, I wasn't feeling well. Why did I wind up with a mold toxicity myself? Why did I wind up getting leaky gut? I was doing all the supposed quote unquote right things.
Yeah.
I had to keep digging deeper. And this is where I really got into all of this of gut health, of detoxing, of nutrition. But then I said, God, what's happening? I'm doing everything that I know how to do that you've shared with me, all the resources, all the individuals. I didn't do this all on my own. You put these people in front of my path and I'm learning.
Right.
But I also saw that it was the things that I was thinking in my mind. I had neglected him. I was making all the other things my God, as opposed to going to that first.
Right.
So we got to get our priorities straight.
Yeah.
And our foundation straight.
Absolutely.
We've got to absolutely, no matter what, still put him first, but then also prioritize ourselves.
Right.
That's what he wants us to do. That's how we serve others.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Mia, I'm telling you right now that you're going to have to come back. We're out of time, but you're going to have to come back. You're going to have to come back. We're going to have to do a part 2, maybe a part 3, whatever, because I want to dig a little bit more into this whole, detoxing thing. And for those of you that are listening, I did sit through Mia's masterclass. She gives a masterclass, and the things that I learned, I mean, it was mind blowing. But I believe that in the physical world around us, I believe there's always a physical parallel for spiritual truth. I believe that.
Absolutely.
And I believe I see a parallel for and you kind of touched on it when you talked about the toxin getting to the cellular level. And after I took your master class, God impressed upon me that it's the same way spiritually. The reason we have so much toxicity and chaos and confusion in the world is because God is saying, because people won't deal with themselves at the spiritual cellular level. And that's what the word of God does.
Yes.
We've got to get you back. We've got to do this again. We'll get our calendars together, but where can people get more information? What is your website address? So
it's just my name, Mia, MIAARANC like cat, ILLO.com, CCMiaArancillo.com. I'll provide it for you, Fitz, if you want to give it to your listeners here. Absolutely. And then also you can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. Facebook is probably where I live the most of all of social media. However, find me on my website here. I have some resources there that I'm hoping could also help you just to get you started. It's the decision that you guys make here to prioritize yourself really above all, and just some ways. So, feel free to connect with me there. Take advantage of some of the free resources that I do have for you. I have a free 7-day Live Energized challenge there where you'll have me speaking to you, giving you some, teaching, some coaching on there, and then helping you to just empower you to implement and take some of that action. Just the first step, Right. And connect with me there. I'd be happy to get to know you all. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mia, for taking the time out to join us on Core Conversations, talking about the health core being fearfully and wonderfully made. I thank you so much for sharing your passion with us. We can certainly see that you're passionate about it and you're called to do this. I think I told you that. I said, this is your calling. This is your ministry. And I thank God that you and I have connected, through the John Maxwell team. That was an opportunity for us to connect, and God brought us together. And there's some wonderful things I believe that he has in store for this relationship and this friendship. And I thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you next time in the Arc of Freedom and Core Conversations. God bless you all.